How did Spanish and Portuguese colonization impact Latin America? If you're curious about the profound impact of Spanish and Portuguese colonization on Latin America, you're about to uncover a rich and complex history that shaped the region in countless ways. Let's start with the arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492, which marked the beginning of Spanish colonization in the Americas. The Spanish saw the dense populations of indigenous peoples as a vital economic resource, exploiting them for labor to extract gold, other minerals, and valuable commodities. This exploitation was institutionalized through the system of encomienda, where Spanish settlers were granted control over indigenous settlements and their labor. The introduction of European diseases, such as smallpox and influenza, had a devastating impact on the indigenous population. These diseases spread rapidly, leading to a significant decline in the native population, estimated to be around 80% in the first century and a half following Columbus's voyages. This demographic catastrophe not only affected the indigenous people but also impacted the Spanish settlements, which relied heavily on indigenous labor. Spanish colonization also transformed the environment and economy of the regions they settled. They introduced European livestock like horses, cows, sheep, and goats, which altered the ecological landscape. For example, in the Southwest, the introduction of livestock led to the replacement of native grasses with cactus, sagebrush, and mesquite. This change had long-lasting effects on the local ecosystem. The Spanish also imposed their own governance structures on the indigenous populations. They transformed indigenous city-states into Spanish towns, with indigenous noblemen becoming office holders in the town councils. However, despite these changes, indigenous practices continued to influence local governance. For instance, in central Mexico, the Tlaxcala Cabildo maintained its indigenous functions even under Spanish rule. In terms of social structure, Spanish colonization led to the creation of a mixed-race population known as Mestizos, who were people of mixed Indian and Spanish ancestry. This racial mixture was common throughout the Spanish colonial period and influenced the social hierarchy of the colonies. Mestizos and Indians generally occupied the lower levels of the social structure. The Portuguese, who colonized Brazil, also had a significant impact on Latin America. While their colonization efforts were more focused on Brazil, they too introduced European diseases, livestock, and crops, which had similar effects on the indigenous populations and the environment. Economically, Spanish colonization was characterized by a mercantilist policy that restricted trade and stifled local industry. All trade had to be conducted through Veracruz, and high excise taxes were levied, increasing the cost of transportation. This economic strategy hindered the growth of towns and local industries, but it did help Spain maintain control over its colonies. The legacy of Spanish and Portuguese colonization is still evident today. Many cities in Latin America, such as Los Angeles, San Antonio, and Santa Fe, were founded by the Spanish and retain their Spanish architectural styles and cultural influences. The introduction of Spanish culture, including institutions like the rodeo and the cowboy, vaquero, has left a lasting imprint on the region. In conclusion, the impact of Spanish and Portuguese colonization on Latin America was far-reaching and multifaceted. It involved the exploitation of indigenous labor, the introduction of European diseases and livestock, the imposition of Spanish governance structures, and significant economic and social changes that continue to influence the region today.